Okay.
In Jake with the name Jake, I guess, is that Jacob Liddycoat?
Maybe. Do I have a Jake guest?
Well, your name on here is Jake parentheses guest.
Oh, I guess I'm a guest today.
Well, you're always a guest, but
Yeah, 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 sure. Whatever it calls me today, I'll deal with it.
so with that, I think we've got a quorum present, so we can get underway.
Okay. Get things situated on my screen. Um, Good afternoon. We're here for the fire tag meeting. We're going to be working on some of the proposals today. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Dustin, if you want to do a roll call,
Yes, the chair primary Dan Young,
present.
thank you. With the architect primary Ning Wang, not seeing them in the room to, or I guess chair alternate Roger Haringa is not available for the meeting, so he declined the meeting.
Okay.
Architect primary Ning Wang, I'm not seeing in the audience here today. For the alternate Jacob Liddycoat,
Here.
thank you. For building official primary Quinn Tai,
Here.
thank you. For the alternate Ray Shipman, don't see them in the guest list today. For fire official fire marshal primary Ken Brulette,
Here.
thank you. For the cities and counties primary Hugo Sotelo,
Present.
thank you. For home builder affordable housing developer primary Mike Nykram, don't see them in the audience today. For general contractor developer primary Bill Mybush, not seeing them in the attendees list. For manufacturer supplier primary Ricky Campbell,
Present.
thank you. For fire protection engineer primary Walker Danucci, not seeing them in the room today. For the alternate Dave Cocat,
Present.
thank you. For fire sprinkler industry primary Sean Morgan, don't see them in the room today. For the alternate Kevin Marr, not seeing them either. For the general public subject matter expert primary Samir Mokashi, not seeing them here today. For the alternate Seth Henderson,
Present.
thank you. For fire alarm industry primary David Mao,
Present.
thank you. For the alternate Zachary Tuck,
Present.
thank you. And for the fire chief primary Lance Dahl, I'm not seeing them in the room today. And so with that, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seats represented. So we're one over quorum today, and we're good to conduct business.
Okay. All right. And then do we have any members of the public that want to state that they're here? Patrick.
Yes, thank you. Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington here.
Okay. All right. I think that is, oh, and Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth Torsky with Cascade Natural Gas. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. I think that's it. So if we could then, now we'll review and approve the agenda.
I have up here, it's a two-page one today. We broke out all the different proposals into separate agenda items. And then agenda item number 12, if we have time, these ones weren't initially proposed to be here today, but in case we get there, I put them on here just so we can take action.
Good. So if we can get a motion for the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the agenda.
Thank you, Dave.
Ricky would like to second it.
Thank you, Ricky. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we will approve the agenda.
Are you guys seeing the minutes on the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. If you like, I can zoom these in so we can read them, or we can stay zoomed out. Just let me know what you need.
Okay, so everybody's had a chance, because you sent these out earlier too, didn't you, Dustin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So do we have a motion?
Dan, I would like to approve the minutes as distributed.
All right, thank you, Ricky.
Hugo seconds that.
Thank you, Hugo. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have approved the minutes. And then our next item on the agenda is public comment on items not on the agenda. So it looks like Patrick has his hand raised.
Thank you. For the record, once again, this is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. I just want to make a little comment regarding SB 6291 and some things regarding that have been discussed by the TAG and Council. This year, the state legislature passed SB 6291 regarding changes to the SBCC with strong bipartisan support. In the bill, there are a couple provisions that pertain to the TAG and proposal process that I want to highlight. RCW 1927-032, subsection 2 and 3 state, any person or entity may submit to the council a petition in writing for statewide amendments within the time periods established by the council. The petition for statewide amendment must comply with the format and content requirements approved by the council. Incomplete petitions for statewide amendments or petitions that exceed the specific delegation of authority provided by the legislature shall not be considered by the council for action. And then RCW 1927-033 subsection 3, which states a petition for amendment referred to a technical advisory group must be approved by a majority of the technical advisory group voting members to be taken up for consideration by the State Building Code Council. I know that TAGs and the council have been working hard to fulfill the new requirements of SB 6291, and at the recent IFC TAG meeting on September 25th, 2024, there was discussion about the bill and how it relates to TAGs, and staff informed the TAG that they were told by legal representation that these provisions do not pertain to proposals and only petitions. We disagree with this interpretation. The law uses proposal and petition to refer to the same process for statewide amendments to the model codes given to the council and referred to the TAGs. The Administrative Procedure Act also allows for petitions for agency action and emergency rules and amendments. However, it seems that the interpretation staff was given has incorrectly conflated the provisions of RCW 1927-032 and 033 with EPA petitions for agency action and emergency rules. But those provisions from SB 6291 should also apply to the regular proposal process for statewide amendments to the building codes. And then there is, in the administrative code for the SBCC, goes into more detail about incomplete proposals in WAC 5104-025. So in order to be consistent, we're going to bring up, it seems that some proposals have slipped through and don't quite complete all the requirements of the form. So when we're going to try to look for that in each proposal, and when we see it, bring it up. Just to give the best chance to get corrections made and fixes happen before adoption by the council if the TAG recommends it, just to reduce legal risk of anything being jeopardized because of not following the process. So I just wanted to highlight that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Ken.
Yeah, I do have a question, Patrick. Since you've already kind of said you have looked into some of these that might not meet the requirements, would you please reach out to the proponents ahead of time and discuss with them so you don't blindside them on the day that it's being heard?
Yes, I apologize. Didn't start looking at proposals until Friday because I thought that staff was going through it and taking care of all of that. And then it wasn't until yesterday and this morning that I noticed some. And I think with the current process, it allows for modifications to be made. So I think that and most things I've noticed are pretty minor, that the tag can ask for a modification to be made, and then that can be submitted in writing, and then recommended by the tag before it gets to the building code council, and that should be fine. But I'm trying to bring things up as soon as I notice them. But ideally,
okay, so I'll be more direct then. Any proposals today that are on the agenda that there's an issue with?
Yes, I didn't mention it specifically because technically those are agenda items.
Okay, I just want to make sure, just so I know that it's coming. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
My other comment, since I still got the floor, is Dustin, in the minutes to the last meeting, discussed getting an Excel spreadsheet out to the tag members instead of the PDF. Did that happen and I missed it, or just you guys haven't been able to get to that yet?
It's my understanding that it went out. I didn't send the email myself, but I was under the impression that it went out.
All right, I'll go find it. Thanks.
Okay. To touch base on, I guess I'd like to make a comment. My raise hand function disappears when I'm sharing screen, so if I'll try to raise my hand and wave you down, but it's a good time. So Patrick does bring up a good point on the 6291 as far as proposals and how the terminology is used, proposals versus petition. After I gave the information out to the tag at previous meetings, had further discussion with legal counsel to clarify their guidance that was handed down, and that yes, a proposal is a petition in the eyes of the legal terminology. So just because we use the term proposal does not mean it is not a petition. There is a difference in process for petitions that are submitted with the Office of Financial Management petition form. It kind of complies within the Administrative Procedures Act, and then there's the proposal/petition process that we do as part of our normal rulemaking. So it would be my view and the advice I've gotten from legal counsel that we need to have the majority vote of the tag to move proposals forward to be heard by subsequent groups. And I guess if there's any questions on that, I guess we need to kind of spell this one out here and now. I'm not seeing any hands coming up on that one. Patrick, do you have anything else you want to follow up on that one?
No, I think I appreciate that you followed up on that, and that matches with everything. I know it can be very confusing because there's like 3 or 4 different petition process mentioned in the laws, but I think your explanation hit it.
Yeah, so I appreciate you bringing it up. It was something that I was going to touch base on as we get moving forward here. And so it has been brought up for me, and we can move on forward down there. So just to color that one, I have heard the term proposal used colloquially, and not necessarily use the petition process that's more formal in through the OFM form. So anyway, misconception on my part, and the legal representation reached out quite quick after that meeting and clarified that one. So there's plenty of eyes on it. So thank you guys. I guess moving forward here, we're ready for item number 5, where we're going to look at proposal 24-GP1-008. Knowing that there's some coming down the line that BIAW has identified as not necessarily meeting the mark. I will, I guess, ask, is this one of them? And I'm in the process of getting it pulled up.
Yeah, you're muted, Patrick.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So for this proposal, 008 under number 7, technically I could see some cases where, oh no, wait, let me see. Sorry, I went through a lot. I want to make sure I'm not getting confused. Yeah, I think under number 7, just providing a little bit more information as to why, 7, yes. No, sorry, number 5. Under number 5, so briefly explain your proposed amendment, providing some more information as to what the purpose of the proposal is and what problem it addresses. Just a couple more sentences, I think, would help satisfy the requirements of the form.
Okay.
And under RCW 1927-032, subsection 5, it says that the council, that it allows for change to be made as long as it's made publicly available 48 hours prior to the meeting at which they'll be discussed for tags and the council. So I think it's fine, if you want to discuss a proposal today, and then if you identify there can be a little bit more information provided, if you reach out to the proponent and have them just provide a little more information in writing and attach that to the proposal. And then if you don't take action until, if you just put it off until the next tag meeting, I think that would meet the requirements of the law, in my view.
Gotcha. So what I'm just trying to distill this down. It's not that it doesn't meet the requirements, it's that it could meet the requirements better in your view.
I think with some of these tag ones, I know that the tag had significant discussion on the proposals, and it seems like, and there was a lot of proposals that they had to submit, so it seems like sometimes they were just trying to get it, just kind of put a little bit down and just submit it. So if you can just, yeah, I think the form asks for a little bit more information. I don't think it has to be a ton, but just providing a little bit more information would be helpful, especially when it gets to later on in the process, because I know you end up referencing each of these proposals later on. And so having kind of more information so that people don't have to go dig up all of the tag videos to try to figure out why they're proposing this would be helpful.
Ken, I saw your hand come up.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm going to be pretty blunt. This is about as direct as you can get with a statement. The state does not adopt the performance code. So how can we reference something in the fire code that the state doesn't adopt? So that's as straightforward as you can get. I don't understand what other information you want to satisfy you on number 5 with the answer provided. So just give me an idea of what you're looking for besides just more information, because that's pretty clear cut that if the state doesn't adopt that code, how can we reference it? So we're trying to clean it up.
Just one more sentence that says keeping the model code language would be erroneous, and this provision cleans it up by removing that erroneous reference.
Okay.
And I know some of this is going to seem ticky-tacky, but there's been complaints when we raise issues with sort of larger issues and proposals that there's complaints that we don't do it consistently, we don't do it early enough. So I'm just trying to be very consistent, and anytime I notice anything, bring it up on any proposal, whether we agree, disagree, or are neutral on the substance of it, and bring it up as early as possible. It's not trying to make it personal about any proponent, and I know that everybody's trying their best.
All righty. So, moving forward on this one, I'd like to, I guess, open this one to the tag for discussion on on the proposal in front of us here today. Would it help if I zoom this into the specific code language section on number 4 there?
It would help me, I can say that much.
Okay. So the proposal proposes to remove the exception to 104.2.3 and add the word approved at the end of the section. I guess it's open to the floor for tag discussion.
Well, I do believe this will remove a conflict in the code. I didn't necessarily think that would have to be stated, but I'm willing to add that sentence to number 5.
Now, is that something, I guess, Patrick, that you view that we could work on as a tag, since this is a tag proposal? Could we move the or write the sentence in here and then make a motion on this, in your view?
Give me a second. Just let me look at the statute real quick.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to be going back in and redoing these forms, because that means you're going to have to keep a log of exactly what was changed. I think you make your recommendation for approval or not, and then add in the explanation of why we approved it. But if you're thinking that the proponent's going to go back and rewrite everything in here, I don't think that's the goal here.
No.
I think like with so in like the legislative process, you would typically, you have a bill and then you have an amendment to the bill. I feel like what you could do is you have the log number, and then if an amendment comes up, because there's some that there's more substantive amendments to the code language. So then you could have the log number -A and have just a modified document that has any changes to it. And so in this case, it would just have the small change. I don't know how it would work with, I guess, since it comes from the tag, but you still have someone file it, you could have the tag member file an amended or a modified proposal.
So as we do modifications to the proposals, we would be creating additional, I guess, markers on the file naming for them that would kind of indicate what revision number they are.
Yeah,
And
because I noticed that with one, you did have one proposal get resubmitted, but you had it resubmitted under a different log number.
that one came through twice. There's some small differences in it. It's in the time crunch and staffing issues that we have here at SBCC, I'm trying to include them all, and wanted to clarify which proposal should move forward with the proponent in that particular case. So I guess my ask for the tag is, should we table this entire proposal till our next meeting where we can have an appropriate form, or should we take the public comment and move forward with this one? I don't see the statement as being in violation of the law, just maybe it could be expanded upon a little bit. So I think that this one could be heard by the tag and move it forward. So I'm looking for a motion to recommend adoption, modify this, or a recommendation to not adopt.
Hugo?
Yeah, just for clarification, when you have the underlined approved, looking at the 24 code, and that's already added in the model code. If it's going to be added in the model code already and adopted by the state, do we have to underline the new language?
Yes, this is showing modifications to our current language in WAC.
Okay. So we just don't absorb the new model code, we also identify the language changes as they come.
Correct. So if we were just going to say not show the language here as added, and we went to modify the whack would stay the same as it was in the previous version. Um, and so to show the changes for the whack work, we need to show all the changes there.
All right, thank you.
Quinn?
So I was kind of thinking, is this something that we kind of treat like ICC where they do floor modification? Um, Again, this is a tag, so we're just an advisory group. We can review this, approve this, and make a recommendation on this particular one that's in front of us. And then Patrick can then do a floor mod for the council itself. So when it gets heard by the council, they can look at both what the tag recommended and then his floor modification to what we recommend. I mean, is that something that's doable?
I'm sure there's a process in there that we could work, but it's not something that we have fully fleshed out as part of this work right now. So if we were looking to make modifications to the contents of the form outside of the code language, um, as I understand it, this would be the first time in the Building Code Council history that we are making modifications to things outside of Section 4 in the code language there. So this will be my first triennial code cycle that I'm going through here. So I guess as far as a history, not that it's terribly relevant with the new bill, I would, I guess, maybe ask some members of this group who've been here for several cycles, has the tag typically modified sections of this form in the history?
Dave?
The answer is yes. The tag is basically used as a forum for comments and suggestions. Amendments are reviewed by the tag to basically alter the wording. We've done that in the past. Whether or not that meets the specific requirements of the RCW is another thing, but that's what the tag used to do is to actively get through these proposals with a consensus that's what we wanted to be able to move forward, because previously we didn't have to necessarily vote for them. We were looking for consensus. So that was when I was with the council and running the tags. That's what occurred there.
Yeah. But I guess Dave, have they, outside of the language here, have they sought to modify the contents of the other sections of the form?
Not that I can recall. Honestly, I don't think so. It's only been just the language that's in part 4.
Okay. Quinn?
Yeah, so the reason I bring that up is kind of like what Ken was saying earlier. You know, the tag shouldn't be responsible for modifying something that the public is trying to comment on. The onus of trying to modify it should be on the person that has issues with the language in front of them. So, what I'm trying to do is say, okay, I'm okay open with modification, but the onus shouldn't be on the tag. It should be on the public or whoever wants to make the change. So we could table this. And so like in this instance, Patrick, you can rewrite it and present it your version to this proposal at our next meeting.
Okay, Patrick, you had your hand up.
Yes, I think with this specific proposal, because it technically comes from the tag, I I think it's okay if the tag decides they want to change it, as long as they make an updated version publicly available. I think all the law says is that any modifications be submitted in writing 48 hours in advance of final adoption. So that's when the council considers it. So if the tag is, discussing and say, oh, hey, even if you want to improve language, or if you want to, oh, it actually does have an economic impact, well, here's what the economic impact is. As long as you just find a way to submit that change in writing in advance of final action, or final action for the tag, sorry, not just the council. So you could discuss it today. If there's a change you want to make, you could move to take final action a week from now, and then just make sure that the updated copy is provided 48 hours in advance. That satisfies 1927-032. There's nothing in the bylaws that I saw or the WAC or the RCWs that prevent tags from making modifications, and I know that's happened in the past, and I think it's part of the good work of the tag that when you come up with improvements, use them. As for if it's a proponent that's not a tag member, and if they're here, then you can discuss and then they can resubmit, or you can reach out to them and say, hey, we want to consider your proposal. But we would like if you could, are you open to modifying it, with this ABC? And then they can submit it for that, if that makes sense.
Okay. So is Ken.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is if we don't adopt verbatim what's here, then we are going to make a recommendation, but then it has to sit for at least 48 hours or be published for at least 48 hours before we can vote on it. So during our tag meetings, and if we make any changes, a strike through, whatever, then according to the new rules, we can't approve it to move on. We have to republish it. Is that correct? Is that how I'm interpreting this, Patrick, in your mind?
Yes. RCW 1927-032, subsection 5, the council shall develop a process for council meetings that allows members of the public to understand amendments being proposed for adoption. The process shall include requirements for modification to be proposed, rule text to be in writing, specify the reason for the amendment, and to be available to the council and the members of the public at least 7 days prior to vote on final amendment adoption. The council shall adopt rules that encourage council members and technical advisory group members to make proposed amendments and text changes available to other members and the public at least 48 hours prior to the meeting at which they will be discussed. So if you're adopting it as is, you've already made it available 48 hours in advance. I think you're fine. If you're making a change, then you just wait until the next meeting to move it forward and just make the changes to be in writing. For something like this, it's a very minor change, but I know in past meetings, there's been more significant changes to code language that aren't available to the public 48 hours in advance. So that's my reading of the law.
Okay. So, do we want to make a motion to make a change on this form in section 5? And then as part of that motion, I guess, so we haven't had any discussion on any modifications to the actual code language. We're only talking about the technical merits of the form itself. So if we can move forward this one with a recommendation to adopt the code language as depicted while also expanding on answer in number 5, I guess that's the motion I'm looking for with a final recommendation at our next meeting is maybe a group. If we have more of these that we're making some small modifications to, maybe we can group them together to make a final motion at the next meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
make a motion that we accept the proposal as presented.
I
Okay,
second. This is Quinn. I second. I do have a question afterwards, but I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so discussion. And then Quinn, you had a question?
Yeah, so going back to the legal aspect of it, I hear what Patrick is saying. So I do want to point out that in section 5, the first sentence does say develop a process for council meeting, but then on the third sentence, shall adopt rules that encourage council members and the tag. So I hear what Patrick is saying, but the way it's worded, it's not required. It's encouraged. So I don't, that's just my limited legal education on it. So Dustin, I don't know if you have, you could ask legal counsel on that part of the sentence where it just says encouraged.
Okay, then Ken, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going back to Hugo's question because I don't understand it. So the word approved is base code language. We don't have a current WAC for this section, correct?
Let me hop in there and look. Correct. There's no WAC for this one specifically right now.
Okay. So we don't, let's like Hugo said, we don't have to underline it. We're just showing that the exception is not adopted. That's the proposal, unless the concept was not to italicize the word approved. And I don't know if that was our intent, was not to italicize it, approved to mean approved by the fire code official and to be approved by somebody else. So I don't know if that was the intention or not with the approved.
So Dave, you're the one that proposed this. What's your comment on that?
Basically, what I did was copied what the tag had agreed to in the final wording. So it's basically just preparing what we had already discussed and put together. So the original proposal we had for the tag had discussed was to underline approved.
Okay. Jake, your hand was up?
Nope, took it down. That answered it.
Okay.
So I don't know why, but why would we show it underlined if it's model code language?
And I don't recall that discussion.
So our WAC would just show the first sentence, not show the exception. But ICC, when they reprint, would show that it was struck through the exception. And if our intention is to keep it italicized, then, which I think that would be our intention. I hope I'm making sense. I don't know if I am or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add to that because, as we go through and there's, hundreds of new changes, I don't anticipate us going through this form for every new, change in the model code. So I would assume that's not what we're trying to accomplish here. It's amending any change to the model code.
Yes. So I think the most appropriate way for it to be displayed as far as showing what we got going here is we're showing additions to the WAC. And we're also showing the changes to the model code. So this is a new WAC section. This would be WAC section 5154A-0104. And this would be the only contents within it. So this should be a new WAC section up here. And we wouldn't need to show necessarily the underline approved, but just the strikeout of the exception. So if I was going to make a modification to this.
Hey, Dustin.
Go ahead.
Dave, can you mute? We're getting a lot of feedback from you. Thanks.
Sorry about that. I had somebody, sorry.
Yeah, no, okay. So go ahead, Dustin. I was having trouble following you.
Gotcha. So if I was to show how this one should be drawn in here, you put that one in here. And then this would be changed to not underlined. That's how this one should be depicted for this one. We got a new WAC section, and then we're adopting all of this in here with the change to the model code like that.
But you need to have it italicized, the word approved, since it's defined.
And so just looking in here at the model code, it is italicized as well. I think it just got missed in translation here.
It's,
like that. So,
On and on and on.
on this one, since we've made some modifications to the proposal here, and my track changes, let's see, show all markup. It's just got the stuff in here where I've changed the underline and italics in here as far as formatting changes. We can make a motion to post this for review by the public and make a final recommendation at our subsequent meeting.
Quinn?
So just a FYI, at the ICC level, this kind of change wouldn't be even a comment. Removing the underline and italicizing it, that's part of the code already, so it's not really a change. So if we were actually the ICC body, it's more of that staff would do it without even anybody caring. So just a heads up on that one.
I mean, I agree. Anything we've done here today is editorial at best, and is so. And we actually have a motion on the floor to accept the proposal as presented. So,
So is that as presented before you made the changes, or
that is correct. Proposal as presented before I modified it all. We could entertain a friendly amendment if we wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
I can accept the amendment.
Okay.
And I still second it.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We've had discussion, so let's go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay. So with that one, we are done with 24 GP1-008. Patrick, I just want to ask what your opinion is on this moving forward. In your view, does this need to come back out for public posting? I mean, I know it's minor, but if we're being sticklers for any changes before being compliant with the law there, we've made minor modifications.
I mean, it'd be nice if this was already a codified process, but this is minor, but I think it's helpful if you just think about maybe when it's not minor and just make it consistent. So if you have a rule that says if it's editorial, then you don't have to, but if it's substantive, then you have to, whatever, just as long as you make it consistent and try to follow along.
And before final adoption of this, these will be posted and available for public digestion and comment at the committee meetings and at the council meeting.
I think one issue I saw in the last code cycle with the EPCA amendments is it got to the end where they would just by hyperlink reference the original proposals, and sometimes the original proposals were quite different from the final amended proposal, and it wasn't always clear why those changes had been made. So for instance, like that, of just making sure there's documentation, especially in advance of a meeting, is helpful.
Right, so I'm looking at the 27.032 number 5, the last sentence in there. The council shall adopt rules that encourage council members and technical advisory group members to make proposed amendments and text changes available to other members and the public at least 48 hours prior to the meeting at which they will be discussed. So, you know, on this one, that I guess means that a person proposing an amendment to a proposal, they may not know that they're going to make that amendment to the proposal prior to the meeting. So anything that we did to this particular form, I know this is kind of a small one, but if we're trying to standardize a process here, if they don't know that the amendment's going to be made and it comes about as part of a discussion within the meeting, is it your reading of this section that we need to notice everybody 48 hours prior to making a final recommendation on this?
I think what I would recommend is if, like, in your spreadsheet that you turn into a PDF and present that has each log number and the proposal, if you just add a tab for like at provision as amended, and then if you have the log number, then -A. So if an amendment comes through that you adopt, you then upload that amended copy. So then the public can see if action was taken and what the current version of that proposal is. This is really minor. This is mostly editorial, but that way it's an already consistent process so that if there is a more substantive change or a proposal that attracts more attention, it's just more of a clarified process that's easier to track.
Okay. So that was the intent already, was to, if there's revisions to proposals, to post them so that you can see the differences in the proposals. Looking at the 2021 cycle, some proposals go through with just one revision, some have a couple in there. I'm not sure if there was more than 2 or 3 for certain ones, but I do know that they had them posted there, and that's the intent here. As we go through the tag action column, will have revised proposals and a recommendation there. I might have to add another column to get the hyperlinks and everything to work appropriately, but that's the intent, is to show any changes through here. So what to expect on the spreadsheet moving forward, you'll see a proposal 24 GP1-008-R1, and that'll signify the first revision. If we have subsequent ones, we'll have R2, 3, etc. in there, and we'll make some room for those so that they're all available on that spreadsheet. So with that one, I'm going to save this, change my file name real quick. And we are good with that one. So that brings us to agenda item number 6. It's the BIAW proposal 24 GP1-069. So Patrick, I'm going to assume that there's no issue with this one, right?
I tried to fill it out to the best of my ability. If anyone notices there's an issue, I'm happy to make an amendment to modify it. But I think I tried to get everything in there. I'll just quickly say my public comment on this. I tried to put all my reasons in the description for it, but we made this proposal to amend the model code to better align with state laws regarding administrative procedure and to preemptively avoid situations where fire code officials could make drastic changes to the code without much restriction or oversight. There may be an indirect impact on businesses, construction types, industries, and services that are affected by the fire code, because the model code allows for the fire code official to make ad hoc changes to the code that would affect them. The proposal does not increase reporting or inspection requirements for enforcement. If there are fire code officials or others in attendance today who have reasons for why this section is important and they think that it should be kept, I'm open to modifying the proposal to clarify the model language. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ken?
So we definitely, during COVID, had to have individual cases where we granted modifications because of COVID, and we had to allow certain dining options outdoors, things that just didn't meet the letter of the letter. If we were not able to do this, it would increase the cost of construction, cost of doing business. So I think the economic impact is completely wrong, because we're trying to give them a relief from meeting the code as adopted. And if we said, sorry, you have to meet the code, then it's going to drive up the cost versus us being able to give that relief for those individual cases. And we had to do this for the several years in Seattle. So to be able to take away our ability to do that is going to drive up the cost of business, and it'll be a severe impact.
As I know I'm the chair, but I'm also a fire marshal, and I totally agree with Ken on this. during COVID, which was our, we had to do the same thing. And without something like this that states that we can grant modifications, then we're going to have to follow the code per letter. And in those cases with the outside dining and all that, restaurants would have been put out of business. So I totally agree with Ken on this one, that without this code this code in here, it's going to drive up costs, because then we're going to have to follow the whole code. And there were issues there that would have, I personally think none of the restaurants would have been able to survive. So I totally agree with Ken on that one. Dave.
Yeah, I think I want to address the 104.242 natural disasters. We're seeing some significant situations differently than we've seen in the state before, and things that codes really just don't address. And this would really restrict the emergency responders and fire marshals to to address those particular issues and particular situations that come up. I think it's pretty clear. Basically, it has a start and end date. I don't think that if there's anything that's to be changed in this, is that that can't be more than a certain amount of time past the end of a declaration of a disaster or something like that. But I think the language actually looks pretty good. I don't think it's going to be abused. The jurisdictions are allowed to be more restrictive with things. That's when we start becoming less restrictive. That does become an issue with this, I believe, but it's an emergency situation. I honestly think that would drive the factor to that the fire code officials should have that authority to address it for the protection of life and property.
Quinn?
I'm gonna do a me too with what Ken, Dan, and Dave said, but just a heads up, as far as the proposal goes, Patrick, do you intend to? Your intention was to also remove the charging language in 104.2.4, because the charging language does reference these two sections, but I don't see it in this proposal. So just a heads up.
Thank you. Those are all really great points. I didn't think, when I was considering this, I thought about there might be cases with pandemics or natural disasters where fire code officials may and businesses might benefit from there being modifications. But my concern in the code language is that it had no restrictions on when they can do it, how long it can last, and that there could potentially be some unequal application. And also, like, in terms of pandemic, where basically if they can ad hoc provide certain exemptions for some businesses for almost unlimited periods of time with no restriction. So if there's, open to the idea of maybe paring it down and adding in, like in the case of a declared state natural disaster or state emergency, for the duration of those things, the fire code official can do these things. I'm open to that. As to the charting language, I wasn't aware of the charting language. So if that needs to be changed, I'm willing to amend the proposal for that as well, or have an editorial change to make that aligned.
So Patrick, this is Samir Mokashi. Have you experienced problems where fire marshal have abused the authority to do it? The reason I ask that is as a code consultant, we help put these cases in front of the fire marshal, and they're judged on an individual basis. And I haven't seen rampant corruption anywhere. If anything, I've found fire officials to be very thoughtful and wanting to stay with the code rather than change the code willy-nilly. And this is a means that we have used to identify that the code is not one size fits all. So if you have not seen the problem, this language of modification is actually consistent with how the private industry uses to solve problems.
Yes, thank you. As I said before, I I looked at this as to preempt any possible issue. In talking with some builders and people in our organization, we agreed that it could be a potential issue, although we didn't know of any specific circumstances of abuse. But I also outlined state law that makes it clear that the purpose of the codes and the state building code council is to create a consistent code environment across the state, and that any interpretive policies are not used in the place of a rule. And I just felt like the model language as written could create a situation where they're basically an interpretive policy at the local jurisdiction is used in place of the rule for an undefined period of time, which defeats the purpose of having consistent building codes across the state that are approved by the State Building Codes Council and go through. I agree that I generally don't think fire code officials would abuse this. I don't think any have thus far, and I think they exercise great prudence in doing things like that during the pandemic. But just in my job and my experience is to look for potential issues that could come up and try to hedge those off. And this is one that I thought could potentially be an issue if there's no guardrails or restrictions in how this is used or applied.
Ken?
So are we going to ask the applicant to come back with the new proposal or a revised proposal based on the feedback, or are we just denying it? I mean, I want to try to figure out the proposal or the proponent's rights here. If during these discussions we're saying, hey, we have a different viewpoint on it, he agrees to come back with something else. Do we have an avenue for that? Because
there's nothing spelled out on that particular avenue, but if we wanted to make the motion to entertain a modified proposal at a next meeting, we can do that. I would remind the group that, we are trying to get this done for the November council meeting, which happens pretty soon.
Throw that out the window. That ain't happening.
Let me jump in and ask Patrick, how passionate are you, Patrick, about this? My inclination is to recommend denial based on how you responded to it, Patrick, and what we've all told you. I think this works. This is not a problem. And if you think you're passionate about it, then we ask you to revise it.
If, there's, a lot of people that have spoken who have more direct experience with this. And if you feel like it's really important and you want to proceed with it, if we in the future find that there do happen to be instances where this is abused, we could make a petition for emergency rulemaking to get it revised in that circumstance. So I'm only the passion to the extent that, I think if
I get it. I'm not trying to put you on a spot. I understand where you're coming from. But in this one, my recommendation is that we deny it and then see if there's a reason to bring it back in a different forum.
Okay, and then I just wanted to make a quick comment because I agree that I would recommend not adopting it. But Patrick, you said that we can see a case where somebody would abuse this. We went through a historic pandemic; nobody abused it. I'm looking at the natural disaster part. Spokane just had Medical Lake and that fire; nobody abused it. I think it's grasping at straws or something like that, because it's just one of those things that I haven't seen anybody go above and beyond. I think everybody's tried to, in the first one, individual cases shall find special individual reasons to make the strict letter of the code and the modifications in compliance with the intent and purposes of this code. I think that's what happened during, a once in a lifetime pandemic that we had. And it just seems that we would be handcuffing a lot of people by changing this one. And that's my opinion. So I think we're at a point where we can go for somebody with a proposal or
I'll just make one more comment before I will make a motion. So when I got denied in the past on things, I would bring it to the next committee. So the chairs of the next one, if something got denied and I wanted to still be passionate about getting something passed. And also we still had the state building code council meeting also that we could discuss and get it changed. So unless that has changed, I don't see a problem with denying this and then letting Patrick bring it forward again to the next levels to see if anybody else wants to make adjustment to it. So I'm making a recommendation right now that this proposal number, and I don't have it in front of me. Anybody help me with that?
24 GP1 069.
069 is recommended for disapproval.
I second it.
As part of some discussion on that one, per Patrick's own comments, if we don't have the majority of the tag approving a proposal, it's not supposed to move on to the council or committees. So that might change how we're viewing what we're about to vote on.
So Ken, you made the motion. Does that change your motion or?
It changed my thought process.
Okay, but does it change your motion?
No, because I think Patrick should be given the opportunity to, he heard what happened at the tag level, and I think that he could make modifications to his proposal because he talked about time frames and that type of thing, that he could propose something because he's listened to our comments. He's listened to the staff. And I think he should be given the opportunity to as any of us would with proponents, besides just turning it down. I think the proponent should be able to come back. So,
all right, Patrick.
I think it was in a WAC. I've read through a lot of things regarding the State Building Code Council today, so I don't remember exactly, but I think it was either in the WAC or the bylaws. Pretty sure it's a WAC, that you can have a petition for reconsideration like within 7 days of a denial. So there's that. If I were really passionate about this section, I would ask the tag for an ability to submit a modification before you deny it. But I think in this case, I was working more from my experience where you're dealing with things where there's people with less good intentions trying to abuse things. I think this is a case where fire code officials are really good about doing a good job. So there hasn't been any instances that I know of where this has been abused. And if any do come up, then I think we can submit an emergency making to get that rectified in that situation. So that's my thoughts.
So WAC 5104-040, when the council approves, denies, or modifies a local amendment to the building code, so that's a local amendment, any party with written or oral testimony to the council related to the amendment on the record may file a petition for reconsideration. The petition must be received by the Washington SBCC at our mailing address within 20 calendar days of the council action on the amendment. The petition must give specific reasons for why the council should reconsider the amendment for approval or denial. So this isn't a local amendment to the building code, and it's not council action on this particular proposal either. So
good point. I stand corrected.
On that one, so if the idea is to give Patrick an opportunity to bring back something that would be approved by the tag, and hopefully then approved by committee and then council, I think that our motion should not be recommend to not adopt, but to request the proponent to revise the proposal to be heard at a subsequent meeting.
I'm just going to withdraw my motion right now and let somebody else come up with a different one.
So does anybody have a motion? Hugo?
Yeah, I'd like to issue a motion for the applicant to revise the proposed amendment to 104241 and 104242 so that we can review at a later date and time.
Do we have a second?
This is Walker. I'll second that. And I have joined Dustin.
Thank you, Walker.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion? Okay, does not look like we have any discussion, so we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
So moving forward on that one, Patrick, I want to make sure you have time enough to make revisions to this one, and then also so that we can make sure that we're completing our work in as expeditious a time as possible. I would like to give you about a week to get this revision back to us, and then we'd post it for another week. So we'll hear this at the my calendars are not cooperating with me at the moment. They're not pulling up. So not this next week, but the week after on a meeting on the 15th. Does that work for you as far as getting that back out? Patrick, we can
Yes.
get that by next week's meeting, and then we can post it so we can hear it on the 15th.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to make to consider the feedback and make changes.
Okay.
So just for my curiosity, so Patrick decides he doesn't want to make this change. He just lets it slide. Is that what happens? Or if until he submits something, it remains an open item?
So I guess was the question, if Patrick doesn't want to make any modification to this, what happens?
Right.
So if Patrick decided he didn't want to make the modifications, we would still, I guess, come back to this one on the 15th and discuss what we did or did not receive. And likely, if we were looking for a revision on this one, we would make a motion to deny the original proposal.
Okay.
All right. So with that one, the proposal 24 GP1-069 is out for revision and slated to be heard back on the 15th. And we'll try to have those at the beginning of the meeting, and then we'll try to go with the book in order there. All right, so with that one, we're done with number 6. We're here to number 7. I have 2 proposals to view on this one. Let me pop them open. So on the left-hand side of the screen will be the 002. I was trying to do 006 on the left-hand side and 007 or 027 on the right-hand side. So as we're looking at this one, the beginning sections are reading the same. We have some additional information in section number 2. Section number 3 has a little bit more information in there. We have some contact information for them added in on 027. Section 4 reads a little differently. There's some extra lines and stuff, but the what is shown here on the actual revision differs just a little bit, I think.
No, what appears happens is that I sent it 2 proposals for this same section.
Yeah.
One was correct and one wasn't. So the second one on the right-hand side of the screen, since it's got everything filled out, because the one on the left-hand side of the screen did not.
Is the most correct?
Yeah, I would say that, the one on the left shouldn't have been accepted because it wasn't completely filled out.
Yeah. And I was working on that, and as they came flooding through, I didn't have the bandwidth to go
Yeah,
through them.
I was just trying to beat Dave and get more proposals in him, and I put two in for one.
So
That's
let me go to my chalkboard
was
and
the
erase
reason.
one more tick mark off of Ken's. He's
Yeah.
got.
You're gaining. You're gaining, Dave.
I'm about ready just to resign and just be done with it.
No, you can't
So
resign. It's all part of the fun.
yeah. So
Gotta keep it fun.
so this one on the right hand side of the screen, and the explanation in number 5 is just that the fire code official is the one that defines what a wildfire risk area is, and we don't want local regulations, because we have no idea whose local regulations are, is going to be dictating when an operational permit is required or not. The fire code official is the one in the fire code that says, hey, operational permit is required. So, yeah, that's the explanation for it. And it's just, there's no economic intent or no economic factors, because it just defines the intent of the code. Is that the fire code official is the one that defines the term wildfire risk areas, and also is the one that decides when operational permits will be issued. So that's it.
I will assume that 006 will be. I'll just officially withdraw that one, and
Yeah,
we'll
just
take it out on
please
this.
do. Yep, just withdraw it.
All right, and then
So you also can see that where I mentioned in there the informational note that I italicized wildfire risk areas, and I believe that is just a clerical error in the first printing. I do not think that we need to make that a state amendment. And added the period at the end of the sentence.
all right. Any other discussion on this one? If we're not, we would be in a position to entertain a motion to move this one in a direction.
This is Walker. We'll make a motion to move this one forward to council.
This is Quinn. I'll second that.
Can I ask, just when we're making motions like this one, since we're recommending adoption to the council, could we get those verbiage in the motions that we're making on these?
Yep. This is Walker. I will make a motion to recommend we move this to council. Is that right, Dustin?
Recommend adoption to the council.
Recommend adoption to the council. So moved by Walker.
Quinn, are you still okay with that?
I think we may not have heard you, Quinn.
Yeah, I'm okay. I still second it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second. Is any discussion? So let's move, not hearing any discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay. Moving that one off. Kill that one. That one. So with that one, we are on to item number 8. It's another Ken Brulette proposal. It's the first one that we received. He was very quick on the draw with this one. And this is 24 GP1-001. And it is on section 202. It's got several general definitions in here.
So this code change proposal is based on the F11-24 from the 2027 IFC code development process. It adds in definitions that are from NFPA 855, and we're just trying to be a leader in the battery world when it comes to codes in the state of Washington. We adopt stuff early before in our 21 code, and this would be the same format as adopting some definitions early that are going to be in the 27 code. Again, it just creates some consistency with NFPA 855, which are code statewide references. So it's again, it's just some clarification. It's not something that's we're not implementing anything on anybody. It's just some better definitions. That's about all I got to say on that.
Quinn?
Just a quick question, Ken. So are any of these definitions, you said that they're referenced in the NFPA in the 27. What about the 27 IFC? Are they going to be in the 27 IFC as well?
Yeah, this is the proposal, the F11-24. It's already was approved as submitted at the first action hearing. That's what this is. This is that entire, all of those definitions. So so yes,
Sure.
it will be in the 27
Okay.
code. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, I think I need to look at that. F what again?
F11-24.
Okay, yeah, because the reason I ask, and I had to look at that proposal, but you could have definitions, but is it going to be used in the rest of the code is I guess where I'm going at. So, it's like definitions are good as long as it's being used, referenced in other sections.
Nope, I understand that.
Walker?
I just wanted to throw a note in that, this industry is hard to keep up with. This industry is dynamic and evolving. NFPA and ICC are challenged to keep up with this industry by adopting what ICC has already approved for the next cycle early. We're doing what we can to keep up with those that are striving to keep up with this dynamic industry. It's a tough one. And I really agree, Ken, that we should be bringing this in early, moving this forward. I didn't think we'd have a contentious vote, but I figured I would throw my kind of personal perspective on ESS in there. With that, I can make a motion to recommend adoption to the council.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, Hugo seconds that.
All right, thank you, Hugo. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll take
Hang
a vote.
on. I thought QN was saying that we need to see if the definitions are used in the code, otherwise they're redundant. Is that not what you said, QN?
Yeah, well, so yeah, this is Quinn here. I am looking at that F11-24, and that proposal is only for definition. There's no reference to it at all in any other sections of the IFC. So I'm probably going to be a no vote on this just because it's not really needed if it's not being used in the IFC other than the definition.
I tend to agree with QN on this as well. We don't need to code any bigger than it already is. I agree with Walker and Ken that we should be ahead of the rest of the world, but this is just adding more definitions.
So let me just clarify that we already have definitions of lithium-ion battery. This is clarifying those definitions also.
I see.
Yeah, these are your battery types and subtypes that have been invented.
Yeah, so a lot of this code change proposal is revised existing amendments. We have existing statewide amendments right now that already have this language in here, and so we're revising that existing state language that we have now. We already have the words lead acid battery, lithium-ion battery, NiCad battery. We already have those in here. So,
but go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
No, and so again, if you look at the battery, it says when it goes into battery, add new definition as follows: battery, and then it talks about all the different types of batteries. It just clarifies it. So we're not, I don't see it as adding a whole bunch of new language. We're just clarifying some language. So I'll let you guys discuss.
Yeah, well, a permanent applicant, tomorrow a permanent applicant is going to take a sodium nickel chloride battery installation proposal to a city in the state of Washington. They're going to go look in the code. Sodium nickel chloride battery type is not going to be anywhere in the code. So they're going to struggle to figure out how to regulate it or even have an idea of how to categorize it and regulate it. So having the definitions in, at least as a pointer that acknowledges, there are these different types of batteries that have hazards that are distinct and unique to each different one. I think it's at least a pointer for regulators that there are all these different types of technologies under this big heading.
Okay, Quinn, you were next.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, but the problem is, and I'll admit, I don't live in the IFC, I live in the IRC and IBC. If the definition doesn't exist in the code, then and it's industry practice, ICC even said it, you go to the Webster dictionary. So is it needed if it's not being used in the rest of the code? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. If someone needs to define it based on a project, use the Webster dictionary. That's just my opinion.
Hugo?
Yeah, the other concern to that is as technology, evolves, like Walker was stating, new types of batteries come to play. And so if they're not preemptively defined, we as, fire marshals may struggle with placement of that type of technology. So I think it's good to define the existing technology that's out there. That's all I had to say to that.
Yeah, I agree, Q, and I think after what Walker and Ken explained, this does make sense to me too, because this is a complex industry, fast-changing industry, and I think this definition under the battery definition helps clarify that the battery term encompasses this. I can support this now.
Any more discussion? All right, so we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'll be the lone dissenter.
All right, so noted. So Dustin, it looks like this one passes then because we have a majority.
Yes, it does, but just so I can make sure I've got the opposition position described here. Quinn, if I'm gonna paraphrase what you were saying, if the definitions aren't used within the body of the IFC elsewhere outside of Chapter 2, then the definition doesn't necessarily best serve the users of the code, because there would be no italicized text in the body of the code pointing somebody back to the definitions section. And with that being said, the Webster's dictionary should kind of govern what's going on with these definitions, even though the types of batteries wouldn't necessarily be defined within Webster's.
Yeah, you pretty much got paraphrased it, what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Quinn, just for clarity, were you abstaining or voting no?
I was a nay.
Yeah, he was voting in opposition.
Right. Sorry, I didn't catch it. Thank you.
I was had intended if there's opposition to do a roll call vote on that one. But since it was only one opposition, it's clear what we have going on there. The folks in attendance all voted for. Quinn's in opposition because of the reasons stated. And I just got to finish up my notes and I'll be ready to move on to the next one.
Sorry, I'm making you do more work.
It's okay, Quinn. I was expecting this at some point.
So wait, Dustin's doing that. Ken, are you ahead of Dave, or is Dave ahead of you now? Or since
we need a
took one
visual.
out, just have to check.
We need a visual scoreboard. Ken versus Dave.
Yeah, I don't keep track.
Well, we're gonna have to find out who's gets pushed forward.
I think
and who
we're
gets
all winning.
denied.
I think I know Dave, and that's like saying Dave's okay with sports having no end at the end because we're all winners. Is that what you're saying, Dave?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
He's just saying it's okay for Ken to lose.
Everybody stay tuned. I've got the participation trophies coming for everybody.
Okay.
It's actually just going to be a big round of applause.
Nice.
Gwen?
So I do have a question though. So like Ken was saying, F11-24 was adopted, or not adopted yet, but it got approved by the committee. And let's say it does get approved on the final public comment. In the 27 code, it's going to be in the language. So does that mean the next tag group would then have to vote, or not vote, but modify to basically eliminate this proposal?
Yes. So as part of our examination of the existing amendments and significant changes, editorial changes where the model code is exactly the same as our amended language. There's no proposal needed to make that editorial change. And so we have the pointers on where those kind of changes are occurring in the 21 to 24 code. And so those are just going to be modified by staff when we draft the changes for CR 102. You'll see those in there, but the rationale will be that the model code is the same.
That's right. Kind of like what we did this time. Okay.
Yes. All right, so we're on to number 9. It's a IFC tag proposal, 24 GP1012. And our drafter on this one was Dave Cocott.
So Patrick, you have a question? Comment? Question?
Just in relation to prior comments about completeness, we think that there could be just a little more information provided for number 5 that expands on the purpose of the amendment and the problem solved.
I believe that number 7 has enough information to support what we did in number 5. Basically, so would say the same thing.
Are we serious? And yes, I did say that out loud. Are you serious? You want to fall on your sword on this one, Patrick, regarding adding in a metric that was maybe missed?
It's just one sentence. I didn't know what SI means, and the number 5 specifically asks for more information. It's not necessarily about this proposal. I'm just trying to be consistent with all the proposals so that when it gets to one that is, and someone complains that, well, you didn't raise this for other proposals.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be consistent on it.
So the only proposed change is adding 7,620 millimeters, right? Is that it? I just want to make sure I got that straight.
Correct.
Okay. So in the printing, it's in there right now. So they caught it. So this is a one that ICC caught probably in an errata.
But we do have the reference to the WAC. So
exactly. We have the we have the
Yep.
So we probably don't need this. I mean, we still need to keep our local amendment C also chapter 173-425 WAC, but we don't need to add in the 7,620 millimeters because it's already in. I'm staring at the 24 code right now.
But we're not adopting it. This is amendment to that. So we haven't really amended that. We don't have an amendment. We haven't adopted this because that model code can. So we have to modify the amendment or create a new amendment.
Okay, so the 30742 right now in WAC form.
WAC code. Okay.
Yeah.
Has the 7,620 millimeter.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's a
But
tag.
that was
The
just,
tag came up with that, so I just
yeah.
typed it in.
And that's kind of like the word approved that we just did on the previous one. We decided not to underline approved because it was in the model code language.
But I think the point Dave is making is this changes in the 24 code, which is not the foundation for this modification. Therefore, we do need this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's what the tag came up with our discussion.
the intent of this one with the tag discussion was not necessarily modifying the model code, but that we have an existing amendment that doesn't have the metric measurement in there. And just to be most appropriate to develop a proposal that adds in the metric measurement to the WAC language without changing the state amendment of that's there, other than to add the metric measurement.
Okay, and this is where I see that this is a waste of our time, and this should have been editorially done through the code reviser's office and not have to go through a code change proposal to put that in. I just think it's a waste.
So we could entertain the motion to recommend adoption of this proposal.
I propose adoption of this proposal.
Second that, Hugo.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Mr. Chair, this is Dave Cocott. I have to step out, but I see that Walker is in and he has been voting. I have not been voting once I saw he was on board, so that should not affect the quorum.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
See y'all next week.
Yep.
See you, Dave.
Okay, so that brings us to 24 GP1041. This is for several sections within 320. And Ken, do you want to guide us through this one?
Actually, I need to take a break right now and answer a separate call. So I don't know if we could take a little intermission here.
We got 28 minutes left in our scheduled time here today. How about let me go back to the schedule here.
Can we jump to another person's items besides mine?
We can, once we're out of 10 and 11, those are ones that weren't necessarily on the agenda or discussed as part of today. So we could hop into chapter 4 for GP1013 if you like.
It would be helpful if you guys could like move mine. I'll try to get back in time, but right now I don't know if you're gonna have a quorum if I leave right now. So
let me double check.
So I should have left before Dave, so then it falls on his shoulders, not mine.
Well, no, Walker's here. So Dave's
Oh, Walker's here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here now. GP1013 is one of Dave's, but I think we can figure it out. It looks pretty straightforward.
So, Ken, if you were to vacate today or now, we will still maintain quorum and can keep on with the business. And then if you hop back on, we can insert 041 in there.
Okay.
As appropriate. So,
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I'll try to be back.
So that's 10 and 11. We're tabling until Ken can return. We're going to go to GP1013. Let me just make sure I'm managing all these windows appropriately. Okay, so 24 GP1013.
I can intro it if you want, Dustin. I recall the item with this one.
Thank you.
So yeah, this code change proposal is recommending that we amend this section to simply rely on the current 2024 IFC language The only change that that creates compared to 2021 Washington state requirements is some language that was in there for crowd managers for smaller groups of, I believe, 500. So this will just default to the ICC model language recognized 1,000-person threshold for crowd managers.
Patrick?
I'll just say that I was working off the Excel PDF, and so I did not have a chance to review these additional proposals for completeness. So I have no comment one way or the other about that.
Yeah. So do we have any further discussion on the proposal?
Okay, do we have a motion then?
This is Walker. I'll make a motion to recommend adoption to the council.
This is Hugo. I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Just following up some notes here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on to GP1-014. It was also from David Cocott.
Wow, Dave bailed at the wrong time, didn't he?
Yep. So his reason statement here adds the clarifying language to include the term uses rather than just occupancies to be consistent with section 403. So occupancies and uses, there's nothing struck out in this one, just some language added. And there's no economic impact with the statement being the wording change provides clarification that the specific uses as well as the occupancies are listed in section 40 that are listed in section 403 shall include the training. It is implied from the language that it would include the uses. This just further clarifies this section.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I recommend adoption.
Thank you. And a
This is
second.
Walker. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right. Taking us to 12C, 24 GP1-083. This one is drafted by Ricky Campbell on behalf of the fire tag. Ricky, do you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, this is just mirroring what we have in our wax. So I just mirrored what we currently are using, and this kind of allows the local AHJ the ability to do what's best in that area. So I that's what I got.
Quinn.
Just a minor question, not even, maybe, I don't know. Should it say standards or ordinance? Locally adopted street roads and access ordinances? Because I don't know if we use standards in our local amendments, laws. We use, the term ordinance instead.
Let's see.
I want to say the wax said standards, but
There is a section in here. I think it uses the term standards in the WAC or the RCW. I can't remember exactly where it's at.
Okay, if it is, then we could be consistent. I was just kind of curious about that.
I'm sure a lot of municipalities are going to use the term ordinances. So, I mean, should it be standards and or ordinances or standards and ordinances? Just to catch it all.
yeah, I can kind of see where that's going, right? Yeah, I was just mirroring what the state building code had already adopted in the past. I'm just trying to stay consistent with them.
So adopted standards would read as ordinances.
Yeah, they'd be adopted by ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, but they would be technical standards, technical requirements that would be, could call them standards, whether they call themselves that or not, right? So I think it works as written, but we could add, standards and ordinances if we wanted to make it more clear, I suppose.
Do we want to make a motion to modify this proposal? Or do we want to make a motion to recommend?
That's probably the quickest way to get through it. I'll make a motion to modify this proposal to read standards and ordinances added at the end.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And this is Quinn, by the way.
Yep. Any discussion?
One question, do we have to then rehear it, or we can also say amend and recommend adoption?
I think for this one, we should hear this one again after due notice.
So quick question, I don't mind this one. I think really fits what Patrick was trying to hint at earlier in the meeting. But I think if this one doesn't come back with any public comment, that I don't think we need to revisit it. It should just go straight to council committee at that point, right? Because if there's no public comment, we don't need to look at it anymore.
I think, so if we get no public comment on it, we still shouldn't do final recommendation to the council today since we're making the modification. So I do agree with what you said, Quinn, but we haven't given opportunity for the public to digest and make that comment yet.
Okay.
Okay, so any more discussion? Okay, so we're going to add, or you could put it on there, Dustin, before we vote, so we make sure it's.
Does that align with the motion, Walker?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And then Dustin, this will come back next week, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Dustin, this is Ricky. I think we should scroll down, make sure everything, I mean, I guess we already, approved it, but we should look at the whole thing before we, because obviously Patrick was stating some things I'm worried about, especially on my next one.
Gotcha. So
You know what I mean? We need to look at the whole thing as well, right?
yeah, so I do
Agreed.
believe that this one's an existing
It is.
amendment.
Yep.
And so to modify that one with ordinances and standards is good, but the existing amendment essentially achieves what is depicted here with all the strikeout language there. So this is showing the change from the model code.
Yeah.
And what we're looking to do here is modify the existing amendment here. And I've been trying to, without losing track of what's going on here in the meeting, to find the specific section where it said that the Building Code Council shall not adopt rules that affect roads and water supplies. And that's why this amendment is the way it is. All of this is already intended to be adopted on the local level by their own process in here. And I've just been struggling to find the exact spot in here where it says what I'm regurgitating at the moment from memory. So, Ricky, I'm happy to go through this in here, but all these subsections in here
Sure. No, it's good.
are just 503.1.1
Yep.
through 503.1.3 and have a lot of stuff that if it remained in the code could cause conflict with the rule that we're not supposed to adopt things that affect roads and water supplies.
It's 19.27.060, number 5. Is no provision of the Uniform Fire Code concerning roadways shall be part of the state building code, provided that the subsection should not limit the authority of a county or city to adopt street, road, or access standards.
Thank you, Ken.
And I'm back.
All right, so I would say that the clarification of adding the word ordinances in there works, and the state amendment as drafted with that change still complies with this section right here.
Perfect.
Okay, so with that one, Ken, you are back, and we're gonna bop back to agenda item number 10, which is 24 GP 1041. And let me just make one more note on W83. So on the 8th. All right, so with this modification, we're gonna repost this one with the modification. We'll hear it at next meeting, the 8th of October. And okay. Hop into 10.041. All right, Ken, I will let you take this one away.
So this one is going to need some modifications, and let me explain why. So for the 2021 Washington State Fire Code, we adopted early, but 24 code, and we have put in a WAC section of 322. 322 is basically the 320 section of the 24 code. So that 322 of the WAC, I believe, needs to go away, and then it will just be reserved. And then we then modify what I've done in front of us, 320, and add in the language where necessary, because I don't think we want the numbering. I think it's easier to clean that up to make it reserved, the 322.1, because now that is like micro mobility in the 24 code. So I don't know if anybody's following or not, but I think that this proposal needs to show the 322 language is being deleted and put as reserved. Does that make sense to everybody? I don't know.
I mean, I'm following you, Ken, as far as the contents of this one. So like 322 starts off with a general section. Um, I guess
So
our
yeah, so scroll to the top of this. All right. And so it starts with 320.4 storage requirements. Yeah, and then but see that's the whole thing is that we have a 322.1 in the state and
Mhm.
and we can't have that. We have a 322 we can't have a 322 section.
Well, I agree. I'm just asking, I guess my question is the content that's in 322, if it just slid over to 320, because the as I understand it in 322 last go around, we adopted the 2024 stuff a little bit early in there. And so we can't just slide 322 to section 320. My question for you is the content of what you have drafted here take care of the content in 322 as organized in the 2021 code?
Sort of. I mean, it's from 320, from the 320.4, that is our same 322.4 verbatim. And then the 320.4.1 isn't verbatim. It's now being changed. So uh, it's being,
But it is the same
renumbered.
title of the section there, so it's been revised in the 27
Yeah.
code.
So I don't know how you want me to show it. I mean, what do we do with the existing state 322?
Well, I think that this needs to be modified to show just strike out of that general 322 section. And then we have this new section, and then we need to be able to describe how this section covers what is contained in the existing amendment for 322. So, I mean, 322.4, that's a slam dunk easy one. 322.4.1, I'd be looking for a description of like the change there and, why we're necessarily needing that one. You getting hungry, huh? Looks like 322.4.1 is some of that's been split out into multiple sections, it looks like. So 1, 2, 3, 4 here is the same as the 1, 2, 3, 4 and 322.4.1 in our 2021 code. Um, And then there appears to be more in the 322 section. So I guess another question from me to you, Ken, is in the adoption of, let's say we do 320 with these modifications here, is the remaining sections in 322 covered by model code language?
When you say the remaining sections of 322, you're talking about
So like let's say 320.4.2.3, we got fire protection systems. That's 322.4.2.3. But then I have fire alarm systems, explosion control, reduced requirements for storage, outdoor storage, distance from storage to exposures, just several other sections included in the 2021 version of 322 that aren't reflected in your proposal. And my question is, does model code language cover these sections that aren't included? If we're going to just slide 322 to 320, essentially, are
yes.
all the bases covered?
Yes, there are. It's still, yeah, it's all verbatim in, yes. All of
Okay.
those ones that we have in the state are covered under the 320 section of the 24 code.
Okay. So then I guess my ask for making a modification to this one would just be Um, on the sections numbering here, let's show that it's 322 dot whatever in the 2021 WAC, and let's show that as strikeout. And then let's put in the 2024 numbers and then the sections that are going to go away in the WAC, which would be 423, which would be 322, 424 through the end of that WAC section. Let's just show them as struck and model code covering those sections.
Okay. All right. So I guess then I'm asking for the next two proposals that we're supposed to hear because the next one is outdoor and it would be I think
same thing.
It might be the same thing. So since we only have 5 minutes left, hoping that maybe we could just table these and
I think could I have a motion to modify this one and hear at the next meeting?
I'd like to propose a motion, this is Hugo, to modify and address this at the next regular meeting.
Ms. Walker, I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
So Ken, on that one, so I can get this out as appropriate, I'll definitely need this one back probably by Thursday, Friday at the latest, so that I can post it for folks.
Okay, got it.
Hugo?
Yeah, before we close today's meeting, did you send a schedule for the upcoming meetings and agenda items? I just want to make sure that the things that I need to address, I'll be present for because there's a few days I'll be missing.
So it sounds like maybe everybody didn't receive the spreadsheet showing the proposed kind of meeting dates for what we were I guess proposing for individual meetings. So after this one, I'll make sure that that gets out to everybody here today. We did hear a couple proposals that were intended to be heard or were discussed as being part of the next week's meeting. In order to complete as much as possible, I added those in here. Our admin reached out to the proponents and let them know that they might be heard at this one. So my desire here is to get you guys the spreadsheet that shows where we talked about where the proposals would land, but also that our admins are reaching out to the proponents to let them know when they might be heard. So I would like to intend to continue to add more proposals on the end of our agendas in case we can get to them. That way we have as much time at the end to prep for the council or for the committee meeting than the council meeting. So the spreadsheet is going to change over time as we hit any extra proposals. And so I'm going to try to group about 8 proposals per meeting and then give us some bonus proposals. And if we hit those, then it's going to shift the whole schedule and get that moving forward, I guess there. So I don't know if I was as concise and clear as I wanted to be there. So I want to get you guys a spreadsheet to plan. Our admins have sent out meeting holders without agendas attached to those meeting placement holders for your Outlook calendars. The agendas are going to be drafted after the meetings each week, so any changes can be posted appropriately instead of giving you guys an agenda that was a proposed agenda and then modifying it for later on down the road. So I guess, Hugo, to best answer your question, I want to give you an idea with the spreadsheet, but each week as we go through the proposals, we're going to send out a new agenda for the week following that's going to let you know what's going on. And if on the spreadsheet that I send out, you have some conflicts or on any of the meeting dates, if you have conflicts, please just let me know and I can see if we can push some stuff around on that schedule. And we'll make sure that that gets posted out to the public as soon as we know when we can make those changes. Quinn.
So speaking of spreadsheet, I got an email with a spreadsheet from Roseanne on the 20th, and then another spreadsheet from you on the 24th. So those are the spreadsheets I got.
And they're both IFC tag stuff?
Yep.
Okay. There's going to be modifications to the spreadsheet after today's meeting anyway, so I'll be sending out another one to the group. So I guess after each meeting, the group can expect a spreadsheet and updated kind of scheduling itineraries.
And Dustin, did you get one from Tacoma? Chris was asking me about it. He didn't see it on the list. It was 003.
It's on there. When I got the message from Chris on there, it was just an error on there. So his proposal is on there.
Okay.
And it's as part of the building code tag on that one.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
All right. So with that being said, we tabled 10 and 11 till next week, and we got to some bonus proposals, 12A through 12C. And at that point, we don't have any time for other business, and I will turn it back over to Dan to lead us across the finish line.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for the work today. We'll be back again next Tuesday to do it all over again. So everybody have a good and safe week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, Dustin, and everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.